A sudden jolt of urgency rippled through the community the moment word spread that Jack and Lily Sullivan had vanished. No one waited for instructions. No one paused to calculate the odds. People simply ran toward their vehicles, toward the woods, toward any place where two missing children could possibly be. That instinctive surge of action marked the beginning of a search effort that would grow into one of the most emotionally charged operations the region had seen in years. And before we go any further, make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications to get first-hand updates on this story and all developing cases like it. The initial wave of volunteers was remarkable, not only for its size, but for the speed with which it came together. Close to 40 people arrived within hours, many of them locals who didn't know the Sullivan family personally but felt compelled to help. They came from different backgrounds: farmers, students, off-duty workers, retirees. What united them was a shared determination to do something, anything, to help bring the children home. Over the first days, the numbers fluctuated as fatigue, weather, and work commitments pulled some people away, eventually evening out to a stable group of around 30. Even with that reduced roster, the commitment never wavered. These weren't people who came to pose for photos or check a box. They came back again and again, stepping into harsh terrain and long hours with the kind of dedication usually associated with professional teams. What made their effort especially meaningful was the knowledge that they were navigating uncertainty without guarantees, searching woods, ravines, and remote paths with the hope that each step might matter. That kind of effort shapes the tone of an operation, and here it was unmistakably defined by resilience. From the moment volunteers arrived, organizers understood that enthusiasm alone wouldn't keep people safe or effective. The terrain was too unpredictable, the stakes too high, and the risk of contaminating potential evidence far too great. So, the team moved fast to structure every aspect of the operation. Volunteers were directed into quick but thorough briefings that covered everything from how to preserve objects found in the field to what to do if they became separated from their group. Evidence handling protocols were emphasized repeatedly: no touching without gloves, no moving items unnecessarily, no assuming anything was irrelevant. Safety rules were equally strict, especially with the thick brush, steep drop-offs, and rugged trails surrounding the area. Search coordinators outlined how to maintain spacing, how to communicate findings, and how to avoid unintentionally destroying signs that trained investigators might later rely on. Procedures for covering ground methodically were also taught on the spot: grid searches, directional sweeps, and designated checkpoint returns. The speed with which this organization came together was impressive. Within a short time, volunteers who had never worked a search before were operating with discipline and caution, becoming an asset rather than a liability. This rapid structure allowed the search to continue efficiently, even as conditions grew more challenging by the day. It wasn't long before the first notable item surfaced: a boy's t-shirt caught in brush and a small box marked with names. The discovery stopped teams in their tracks, not only because the item could be important, but because of the emotional weight they carried. Any clothing item related to a missing child becomes an instant focal point, offering either a glimmer of hope or the dread of what it could imply. Volunteers did exactly what they were trained to do. They secured the site, avoided handling the objects directly, and waited for law enforcement. The RCMP arrived quickly, photographed the scene, and transferred both items for forensic testing. The t-shirt, in particular, became a subject of immediate speculation. Was it Jack's? Was it simply another child's lost clothing? The small box with names raised its own questions. Was it dropped accidentally? Was it unrelated? These unknowns fueled worry, discussion, and renewed urgency among searchers. But emotions couldn't override process. Investigators emphasized that laboratory testing, not assumptions, would determine whether these items had any real connection to the Sullivan children. For everyone involved, waiting for answers became its own kind of emotional toll. Communication breakdowns became one of the most frustrating obstacles in the entire effort. Much of the search area had inconsistent or non-existent cell service, leaving volunteers unable to send updates, confirm their locations, or call for help if something went wrong. Radios, the intended backup, also faltered, either due to interference from terrain or insufficient range. For a search spread across dense woods and rolling land, this created moments of genuine risk. Teams occasionally drifted out of contact, forcing organizers to pause operations until everyone was accounted for. Even simple tasks like coordinating break times or redirecting groups required physical runners who had to track down teams scattered across vast sections of land. These communication issues didn't just slow the search, they changed it. Instead of focusing purely on covering ground, organizers spent significant energy preventing volunteers from becoming secondary victims of confusion or disorientation. The experience highlighted just how difficult missing person searches become when technology doesn't cooperate, and how fragile coordination can be when the environment works against you. The search eventually expanded to 6 active groups, each assigned a specific section of the region. Managing this operation demanded constant oversight. Group leaders needed to ensure that volunteers stayed hydrated, avoided hazardous drop-offs, and maintained clear path coverage. Rotating teams out before fatigue set in was crucial. Exhausted searchers make mistakes, and mistakes can cost time or risk injury. With so many people moving simultaneously through complex terrain, safety officers had to keep track of not only progress but morale. Some volunteers grew discouraged as hours turned to days without major breakthroughs. Others pushed too hard, refusing breaks until coordinators insisted. These emotional swings are common in long searches, especially when children are involved. Still, leaders work to maintain balance, encouraging optimism, enforcing boundaries, and reminding teams that steady, careful progress was more effective than frantic pacing. The sheer amount of monitoring required showed just how much invisible labor sits behind volunteer operations. Searches aren't just bodies in the woods. They're logistical machines that require constant, attentive management. Complicating all of this were the access restrictions imposed by various landowners. While many opened their gates without hesitation, others required negotiations, paperwork, or specific conditions before anyone could step onto their property. In some cases, permission was denied entirely. These gaps created unavoidable blind spots, patches of land that could not be searched or could only be covered selectively. Every route had to be recalculated, every plan adjusted to account for these boundaries. Volunteers sometimes walked miles around fenced or restricted areas just to reach their assigned starting point. The delays added up, slowing momentum and leaving coordinators uneasy about what might lie inside the inaccessible sections.